Hi, welcome to Proven Cures. Today is Friday, January 3rd, 2020, and you are tuned into part 2 of how to reverse Alzheimer's dementia. In this video, first of all, let me apologize if I look really tired. I am tired. When I did part 1 of this video, it was early this morning, and then I went and I did a full day's work. And for work, I'm a clinical writer. I read and write all day, so my brain is tired, my eyes are tired, and I'm sure it's gonna, partially at least convey through the video, but please don't take it personally or think that the research I'm bringing to you is in any way less important or anything like that to me. No, that's not the case. I'm just physically tired, but I wanted to get through this and share this important information with you, especially if you are a caretaker of someone who has Alzheimer's dementia. Maybe you have a parent or a grandparent who's suffering and you are worried, maybe at your wit's end, and you are here for answers. And I do definitely want to help you and bring these answers to you. As I mentioned in part 1, coconut oil has actually been proven to be beneficial in reversing the symptoms of Alzheimer's dementia. And it was sort of happened upon by a neonatologist by the name of Dr. Mary Newport. She, I believe, was the first person in the United States to actually conduct her own case study, clinical trial on her husband. She actually had her own practice as a neonatologist, and her husband worked for the practice as an accountant. And his number started slipping. He was forgetting that he made deposits in the bank. She initially thought that he was suffering maybe from grief, from loss of a family member, but his situation, his brain capacity continued to deteriorate over time. And she wanted to actually enroll him in a clinical study for people with dementia or Alzheimer's. And he initially tested so low that he was not even approved to go on the study. So he was at a very young age of 51. Normally, Alzheimer's is something that attacks the brain in the senior years. He was attacked during his middle age, and it was still very severe. She was very disheartened by this and had come upon some information about medium chain triglycerides and ketones being used as an alternative fuel for the brain in people with Alzheimer's disease. She continued her research, and what she found was that those medium chain triglycerides can be extracted or contracted rather from coconut oil, because coconut oil is 60% composed of medium chain triglycerides, which in fact makes coconut oil healthy for heart health compared to other saturated fats. You may have heard the American Heart Association in particular has, deemed coconut oil as a bad thing, contributory to heart disease, because it is a saturated fat. And one way to know that it is a saturated fat is because it's a solid at room temperature. Coconut oil doesn't get soft and slippery until it's warm. Much like animal fat, saturated fat, it's thick, it's hard when it's at room temperature or it's cold. The difference between coconut oil, however, with animal fats is that animal fats and vegetable oils also that are saturated fats are composed of long chain fatty acids that do in fact contribute to heart disease. Coconut oil, as I said, is composed of medium chain fatty acids. And medium chain fatty acids actually dissolve in the blood, are able to go to the liver and metabolize. The liver converts those medium chain triglycerides to ketones that can cross the blood-brain barrier and be used as fuel for the brain instead of glucose. Because remember, in part 1, I was saying that the brain is not able to utilize insulin for energy. And what this woman found, Dr. Mary Newport. You can look her up on your own time. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a link in the discussion section of this video to one of her videos where she's speaking about her experience with her husband. It's very it's emotional, you know, because this is her husband she's talking about, and it's a little tearjerker a little bit, you know, listening to her how she had to witness her husband's mental decline, but then at the same time it's so hopeful because she witnessed him come back to life as well. So I'm gonna give you a brief rundown of what she shared in that video first, and then I'm that might have to do another video after this. I'm not sure, to share another actual clinical trial that was conducted with coconut oil as well. But yeah, so like I was saying, Dr. Newport found that coconut oil, being composed of medium chain triglycerides, she wanted to know how much medium chain triglycerides her husband needed in order to affect the actual change in the brain. How much was needed to be used as fuel for his brain. And what she found was that she needed 35 grams of coconut oil in order to get the necessary amount. I'm going to just say MCT from now on instead of medium chain triglycerides, to get the necessary amount of MCT to affect change in his brain. So that 35 grams equated to approximately 2.5 tablespoons of coconut oil. And what she did was, she said she started to add it to his oatmeal in the morning. Some people may have, like, especially if you're not accustomed to it, can cause maybe slight loose stool. It's not hard to digest, however, so it shouldn't make you feel sick, but it can cause a bit of diarrhea until your body gets used to it. She said her husband didn't have a hard time getting used to it. He was fine with it, but she, you know, went on protocol with him just to see how it made him feel. And she said she did experience some loose stool, but over time that resolved. Let me see here. Let me see. What did I write down? She says that after starting him on the protocol, so she started him with the 2.5 tablespoons of coconut oil in his oatmeal, and she also incorporated it throughout the day. Like, she started to cook with it instead of other oils, use coconut milk instead of dairy milk. And about 6 weeks later, it was found that his ketone levels in the brain peaked at 3 hours. So that means 3 hours after consumption of the coconut oil, his brain was functioning better. So that's why she started to incorporate it into his diet around the clock. All right, so in addition to a measured dose at breakfast, she was cooking with it. She gave him the coconut oil. Before she started the coconut oil, she was trying to get him into a clinical study for a drug that was meant to treat Alzheimer's disease. And remember, I said he was testing so low, he could not get into the study. One of the tests was actually being able to draw a clock, and he was not able to draw the shape of a clock, not into the shape of something that was actually recognizable. About 6 weeks, no, she said 6 weeks, I'm sorry, 2 weeks after starting him on the coconut oil, she went back to get him into the study, and he was not only able to configure the circle for the clock, he was able to add numbers and spokes to it, so it looked like a recognizable clock. She also noticed, but this is 2 weeks now, just 2 weeks after consuming this regularly into his diet, she noticed an improvement in his short-term memory. His jaw tremors stopped. His hand tremors stopped. His gait got better. He was able to walk and run. He was able to speak better, and his personality was also returning to him. She says that she especially noted these changes 20 to 30 minutes after administering the coconut oil to him. 3 months now into taking coconut oil on a daily basis, he was able to read again. And she said she didn't at first understand what he meant by not being able to read. She thought maybe it was a matter of just comprehending the words. And in fact, what I found to be a bit disturbing and amazing at the same time was that her husband admitted that there was a visual disturbance in which the words were pixelated. Can you imagine trying to read and the words look like pixels on a page? You can't even make the words out. That improved after 3 months, and his reading comprehension improved 9 to 10 months into taking the coconut oil. After a year, his brain health completely stabilized, and he actually went to go on a clinical trial for a drug. Why? I'm not sure, but they have a way of saying God works in mysterious ways. And for the first 12 to 14 months of that clinical trial, he was actually on a placebo. So that proved even more that the benefit that he was getting was indeed from the coconut oil, the medium chain triglycerides in the coconut oil, as opposed to another drug. She goes on in the video to say that towards, I don't know, the middle of the trial or the end of the trial, he was crossed over into taking the drug and then had bad side effects from it and was taken off. But I don't want to get into that because that's not what this video is about. So that is the first thing I wanted to share here with you. I'm trying to find, give me 1 second. 1 second, please. Bad business. Wait. I'm trying to find another clinical trial that I want. Okay, here it is. I didn't even have to go through all that. Okay. So this clinical trial, I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to turn this camera around. I don't know how well you can see this, but the trial is called Improvement of Main Cognitive Functions in Patients with Alzheimer's Disease After Treatment with Coconut Oil Enriched Mediterranean Diet, a pilot study. This was published in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease in 2018. I'm going to put the information about the study in the discussion section, but I just want to share it with you so you don't think I'm only sharing information with you about one woman's journey with her husband, even though she is a neonatologist. But there's been other studies proving the use of coconut oil. So I'll just share this very quick. The background here, oh my God, you just burped so loud. Alzheimer's disease is the most prevalent neurodegenerative disorder, and new therapies are needed. In this way, ketone bodies are a direct source of cellular energy and can be obtained from coconut oil, postulating that coconut oil could be a new non-pharmacological alternative in Alzheimer's dementia patients. So the aim of the study was to detect changes in the main cognitive functions of patients with Alzheimer's dementia after following a coconut oil-enriched Mediterranean diet, and to determine whether there are differences in function of stage or sex. So a prospective, longitudinal, qualitative, analytic, experimental study. See, that's a lot, right? So prospective means in the future. So they were administered questionnaires and everything while they were taking the coconut oil, but those questionnaires were not evaluated until after everybody had completed the study. That's what prospective means. Longitudinal means a study is conducted over a stretched out period of time. Now, this says it was done for 21 days for each person, but I don't know how long enrollment took. So maybe that's what they meant by longitudinal, because being a clinical researcher, I'm accustomed to longitudinal studies being carried out over a course of many years. But that's what it says here. Qualitative, meaning qualitative versus quantitative. So a qualitative answer is a yes or no. It's a white or black. A quantitative answer will give you how much. So that tells you what kind of study this is. This is saying, did your memory get better? Yes or no. Not asking, did you remember breakfast or did you remember lunch? You kind of understand what I'm saying there? I'm just trying to explain to you what kind of study this is, explain to you what this is saying. A prospective, longitudinal, qualitative, analytic, experimental study carried out in 44 patients with Alzheimer's dementia who were randomly divided into two homogeneous groups. They don't describe what the homogeneous groups are. It could mean two groups who were made up of all women, or two groups who were made up of all people from the same area. I really don't know what homogeneous refers to here, but two homogeneous groups of 22 patients each. So an experimental group of patients were given the coconut oil enriched Mediterranean diet for 21 days, and then there was a control group who weren't given that diet. In order to determine the cognitive changes after the intervention, researchers carried out a 7-minute screen which analyzed temporal orientation, visuospatial and visuoconstructive abilities, and semantic and episodic memory. The results of the study showed that after intervention with coconut oil, there were marked improvements in episodic temporal orientation, knowing where things are at specific times, and semantic memory were observed, and it seems that the positive effect was more evident in women with mild to moderate state Alzheimer's dementia, although other improvements in males and severe state were also shown. Well, now we know homogeneous did not refer to gender. Conclusions: the isocaloric coconut oil enriched Mediterranean diet seemed to improve cognitive function in patients with Alzheimer's disease. So I just wanted to share this with you as additional research, but Dr. Mary Newport's monologue about her at-home case study with her husband seemed a lot more in-depth. She did conduct the research herself, and like I said, I am going to leave links to her video as well. I hope you find this helpful. Please leave comments. I would like to speak with you all about this. Also, if you want me to do a video just speaking directly to medium chain triglycerides, you might be wondering, the difference between medium chain triglycerides and I hope not. I don't want to do that video. Don't ask me to do that video. I should not have said that. Anyway, like, share, subscribe, and leave comments. And thank you for tuning in. Have a good one.